Electronic Documents Amendment Bill 2024.
This Council resumes the second reading debate on the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. Mr. Edmund Wong, Chairman of the Bills Committee on the bill, will first address the Council on the committee's report. Mr. Edmund Wong. President, in my capacity as the Chairman of the Bills Committee on Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for the Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024, I would like to report to the Council the key deliberations of the Bills Committee. The bill seeks to amend the Inland Revenue Ordinance to implement the Patent Box Tax Incentive. The Bills Committee supports the implementation of the tax incentive to encourage more research and development R&D activities in the innovation and technology I&T sector, as well as the transformation and commercialization of R&D results. Under the proposed patent box regime, the concessionary tax rate for assessable profits derived from eligible intellectual property IP income is 5%. Members express concern if the concessionary tax rate is competitive relative to the other tax jurisdictions. The administration responded that the tax rates may be lower in other places which implement the patent box regime. There are, however, other conditions attached, such as those relating to investment and staff recruitment. The administration has proposed a more liberal approach in the bill in defining the scope of eligible IP income for inclusion in the patent box tax incentive regime. The administration is of the view that this approach would enhance the competitiveness of our patent box tax incentive. Members suggested that apart from tax incentives, the administration should provide more incentives or support to the industry to encourage R&D activities. Members urged the administration to actively promote the new patent box tax incentive outside of Hong Kong so as to attract more I&T enterprises to set up base in Hong Kong for their R&D activities. The administration responded that it would promote the patent box tax incentive to mainland and overseas businesses through its network of economic and trade offices and mainland offices, as well as offices of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council and Invest Hong Kong. The bill empowers the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury to amend the concessionary tax rate for the patent box tax incentive by way of subsidiary legislation subject to the negative vetting procedure. Members expressed concerns that any amendment to the concessionary tax rate may have wide implications for taxpayers. Members therefore asked the administration to justify the proposed negative vetting approach. The administration explained that in formulating the patent box tax regime, the relevant rules and regulations of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, must be strictly followed. Otherwise, the regime may be assessed as potentially harmful by OECD. Given the dynamics of the relevant international tax standards, it is necessary to allow flexibility in the legislation so that adjustments could be made swiftly in response to market or regulatory developments. The bill prescribes the keeping of record of sufficient information to establish that the income concerned is eligible IP income and also details of the eligible IP to which the income relates. Such records serve as proof that the relevant income meets the requirements for enjoying patent box tax incentive. Considering that some taxpayers may not have tracked and traced expenditures or income to individual IPs or products prior to the introduction of the patent box tax incentive, the administration proposes to introduce a 3-year transitional arrangement for the record-keeping requirement. The Bills Committee noted that some organizations requested in their submissions that the administration clarify the commencement and end dates specific to the proposed 3-year transitional period. In response to the views of these organizations, the administration has proposed to move an amendment to specify that the transitional arrangement will begin from the first day of the taxpayers' basis period for the year of assessment 2023-24 and end on the last day of the taxpayers' basis period for the year of assessment 2025-26. The Bills Committee raises no objection to the amendment. President, I would now like to give my personal views on the bill. The bill is to provide a concession tax rate of 5% that I mentioned for eligible IP income and accessible profits deriving from that. So this will promote the development of the I&T sector and the development of IP. More importantly, there is a new concessionary tax policy for a particular sector. This is a good example. In that case, the government will be able to give more targeted support to different industries as necessary. Now, I've been advocating for enhancement of our tax regime, and this latest proposal is in line with what I've been advocating. Now, there are two types of concessionary tax regimes. One is the 2 tiers of profits tax. That is for any businesses in any industries, as long as their income is revenue in nature. For the first $2 million of accessible profits, the profits tax will be halved to 8.25%. And for profits above $2 million, the 16.5% of profit tax rate will be kept. The second type is that for certain sectors or businesses, there will be tax concessions. For example, Section 88 of the Inland Revenue Ordinance, or where there are certain profits tax derived from certain funds or organizations, there could be a full waiver. For example, family office is one example. So the profits tax rate in Hong Kong is 16.5% for the standard rate. It's lower than that in many other places. And then there is also 2 tiers tax rates. And then there are other tax concessions for specified businesses or sectors that renders our tax regime competitive. But then OECD is proposing a global minimum global tax rate. And also with BEPS 2.0, the various measures are now being implemented. So the tax advantage that Hong Kong has been enjoying will be undermined to a certain extent, inevitably. That's why the government needs to consider new ways to provide tax concessions that will help to consolidate our tax advantage. The patent box tax regime is precedent for providing specific tax concessionary tax rate for specific industries. So this is a new policy direction. Well, for the minimum global standard rate or BEPS, let's not consider their impact on Hong Kong first. Let's talk about the 8.25% of profits tax or 0% profits tax. That is a total exemption, tax exemption for certain industries. Now, in between the two types of tax concession, it seems that we don't have something in the middle. That is the middle of the road approach. Now, maybe we want to promote the development of certain industries in Hong Kong, and we want to support the development here. If only the first $2 million of accessory profits will enjoy the 8.25% profits tax rate. Well, it is not appealing enough. But then if we can adopt the same arrangement of tax concession for profit tax like for funds, then that will be a good way. That may not be a desirable approach because now with the patent box tax regime, it is new policy direction. So there is a specific concession tax rate for a particular industry. So in future, we could adapt the same regime to other industries that the government wants to support. For example, international arbitration and mediation, aircraft and ship leasing, artificial intelligence industries, and so on. So with such a specific concessionary tax arrangement that will, for specific industries, that will make us more competitive. At the same time, we won't lose out entirely on tax revenue. Now, Hong Kong is an international financial and trade center. We have the obligations to comply with relevant international tax cooperation arrangements. And as the government introduces new tax concession arrangements, it must comply with the requirements of relevant international organizations. For example, the concessionary tax rate of 5% for patent box tax incentive, that's in line with the nexus requirement of OECD. Now, the government has already adopted this new direction of providing specific concession tax rate to specific industries. FSTB should follow this line of arrangement to see how we could comply with OECD and BEPS 2.0 requirements, while at the same time we could offer tax concessions to businesses or funds that we want to bring into Hong Kong. Then the SAR government will be able to bring in businesses and sectors and develop sectors that we want. So then we will be able to enhance the tax competitiveness of Hong Kong as a whole. I speak in support of the bill and the amendments of the government. Thank you.
Mr. Martin Liu. Thank you, President. I have to declare that I'm a practicing barrister, and I also engage in legal services in relation to IP. In the 14th Five-Year Plan, it supports Hong Kong to develop into an international IP center and international cultural center. This is very important to the commercialization of research and development. It also provides safeguard to provide preferential tax treatment for eligible IP that will drive more research and development of enterprises, and that will drive market advantage. And this will also drive the IP activities in the industry. For instance, valuation, management, consultation, and so on. The global INT focuses moving eastwards. Asia increased from 46% to 68%. In 2023, Hong Kong R&D expenditure accounted for more than 1% for the first time of the GDP for the first time. According to a report, patent-intensive sectors are important industry in Hong Kong. It accounts for some 18.6% of the GDP and some 14.6% of the workforce in Hong Kong. From 2021 to 2023, standard patent approval numbered a total of over 10,000. The accumulated growth is 50.5%. the World IP Organization announced the Innovative Index, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Hong Kong. These clusters have ranked the second most patent-intensive regions for 4 years in a row. The GBA has great potential in this regard, but we need to come to understand when it comes to Hong Kong, in 2022, patent applications, over 97% of these applications were submitted by residents out of our jurisdiction. They apply for the re-registration of the patent applications. In the past 10 years, they accounted for less than 2%. SMEs are limited by capital and scale. So in the course of research and development, there are still difficulties. In order to encourage more R&D and commercialization as well as the marketization of products, the Chief Executive mentioned in the 2023 policy address the Patent Box Incentive. President, the concept of Patent Box was floated by Ireland as early as in 2000. Patent Box was first floated in France in 2001. In 2024, in the bill on inland revenue tax concession for intellectual property income, the assessable profits of eligible IP income will be driven down from 16.5% to 5%. In Europe, Luxembourg 4.99%, in Singapore 5% or 10%. These are the patent box tax rates, or the 5% of the patent box tax rate as mentioned in the papers. It may not be the lowest around the world, but the administration has adopted a quite relaxed approach. Taxpayers, the eligible income registered by taxpayers are still eligible for concessionary tax rates. Comparing with the Singapore policy, they need to meet extra requirements in relation to staff and investment. So the policy of Hong Kong is competitive enough. In 2015, OECD, the Nexus approach in relation to IP not only limits the scope of eligible IP, but it also requires the eligible IP income needs to be subject to the Nexus approach. BEPS 2.0 Inclusive Network. Hong Kong is a member of this inclusive network, and Hong Kong needs to follow the Nexus approach as announced by OECD. Through the newly added Schedule 17FD, there's the new definition of eligible IP income as well as the assessable profits of eligible IP income, the concessionary tax rate calculation. If there are acquisition costs of the IP in relation to eligible IP income or outsourced research and development activities, the amount will be calculated on a pro rata basis with fairness. For example, transfer pricing will be decreased on a pro rata basis. That is to prevent any tax loss of Hong Kong, as well as to prevent tax avoidance. Property rental expenditure incurred for R&D activities may be regarded as the proposed eligible R&D expenditure, but interest payment, alteration, expansion, addition expenses will not be covered. The acquisition cost of the IP will not be covered either. In Section 40AZ, the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury is empowered by way of subsidiary legislation to amend Schedule 17 FD. I support it. The making of subsidiary legislation is subject to the monitoring of the Legislative Council. It will be subject to the negative vetting procedure in the Legislative Council. The Council can abolish the relevant subsidiary legislation if need be. It is also subject to judicial review. Hong Kong is a member of the Inclusive Framework on BEPS, so we need to observe the minimum standards as well as the international standards. Making subsidiary legislation to amend Section 17 FD will provide flexibility of the legislation, so we can make adjustments as the market develops. I speak in support of the bill. I so submit. Thank you, President. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, President. I speak in support of the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. On the 14th of May, the Bills Committee held a meeting. I was on a tour to ASEAN and I could not attend a meeting. I would like to speak in support of the bill, and I also support the patent tax incentive, which was mentioned in the 2023 policy address, and the direction of Hong Kong to develop itself into an regional IP center. In 2023 to 24, the budget, the Financial Secretary already announced the patent box incentive. The Chief Executive confirmed in the policy address that the concessionary tax rate will be set at 5%. I support it. The policy objective is to encourage the industry to carry out more research and development activities using IP system and innovative results, commercialization of products. We can encourage IP activities. We can provide more new services. All these will help Hong Kong to develop itself into a regional IP center. It also benefits the OGP system, or Regional Grant Patent System. Re-registration is also covered. The OGP system was floated in 2019. The government has been driving the OGP system. There are a couple of features on the bill. For eligible IP, that covers patent and plant variety rights, software protected by copyright ordinance. We can see these are generated as a result of research and development. This reflects that Hong Kong encourages research and development as well as innovation. For eligible IP, they can come from overseas and register in Hong Kong. The eligible IP income, as long as the income is from Hong Kong, in other words, it is Hong Kong source. As long as this requirement does not change, it will be deemed invalid. Regarding eligible IP income, the tax rate is set at 5%, as I mentioned. This is way lower than the 16.5% on the two-tier profits tax rates. As members mentioned, for example, in Singapore, the concessionary tax rate of 5% or 10% comes with more complicated requirements. They have requirements in relation to investments and staff. So I think we need to seize the opportunities to promote the bill. If we compare with Ireland, the tax rate is 10%. I think we should further promote the concessionary tax rate in Hong Kong. If the eligible IP is developed by taxpayers, the relevant income will also be subject to preferential tax treatment. If, however, it is outsourced or acquired, the administration has already confirmed that this is in line with the OECD BEPS 2.0 inclusive framework nexus approach calculation. The administration should maintain close liaison with the industry. So for those who come to Hong Kong to develop this business, they will have a better understanding of the policies in Hong Kong. Next, on OGP system and plant variety rights, there will be a transitional period of 2 years. In a moment, I will make 3 suggestions. I hope that we will have sufficient time to enhance the capacity for OGP system in Hong Kong. We need to get well prepared. The OGP system started in 2019. The administration said as at March 2024, they have received a total of 859 applications, and Hong Kong only approved 100 applications. Hong Kong only granted 100 applications. So we need to move with the times when it comes to the requirements. And that's about the capacity building of the OGP system. The administration has planned that up to 2030, the pool of patent examiners will reach 100. But right now we only have 30. Next year, we hope that the pool will be extended to 40 examiners. In the coming 5 years, we'll have to have 60 to 70 more patent examiners. I hope the administration will work harder together, and I hope the administration will attract talents in this connection. They need to work harder. On developing ourselves into a regional IP trading center, we need a whole chain of services, that is financing, intermediary support, valuation, collateral registration system, dispute resolution regime. We need to work harder on these fronts in relation to IP. I speak in support of the amendments to be moved by the administration. I support the 3-year transitional period. I support the bill and the amendments. Thank you, President.
Dr. Kennedy Wong. The Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024 seeks to reduce the tax rate for eligible IP income to 5%. This is to implement the proposal in the 2023 to 24 budget for promoting the R&D activities in Hong Kong. So the bill seeks to encourage R&D activities and the commercialization and transformation of R&D outcome, and I support that. Now, we are to develop into regional IP trading center, and the government needs to give more policy support. Apart from tax incentives, we need to pay particular attention to talent sources. I asked a question last year on the training of talents. The administration replied that it will eventually increase the number of patent examiners to 100. The midterm target in 2025 is to increase the number to 40. At the Bills Committee meeting, the administration informed us that the Intellectual Property Department has already hired 29 patent examiners. The midterm target is to increase the number to about 42. So if we go by this progress, is the government confident enough that it will be able to hire enough patent examiners? I hope the administration will be able to achieve its target on time. Now, at the Bills Committee meeting, the administration informed us that with the implementation of the patent box tax regime, the number of original grant patent examiners should go up to cater to the increase in activities. Now, apart from patent examiners, there are other professional services that are required. For example, patent agents. There aren't patent agents yet in Hong Kong. And there's already a discussion on different arrangements. And one of the discussions about the qualifications of patent and training of patent agents. So far, there is a roadmap, but there is not yet a timetable for such new measures. We're therefore concerned that in boosting our talent resources, I wonder if we are able to keep up with the development of the sector. Now, IP is an important asset of businesses. So I hope the government will consider tax incentives to encourage businesses to invest more in R&D activities. And there are other related services, legal services, mediation, management of IP, and so on. There's need to develop different professionals to support the development of the high-quality development of the IP trade sector in Hong Kong. I speak in support of the bill and the amendments of the administration. Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Innovation and technology is the cornerstone for the development of a new economy. The President Xi Jinping proposed accelerating the development of new quality productive forces. Hong Kong has to develop into 8 centers. One of the important center is the Regional IP Trading Center. The new government is very proactive. It's come up with serious measures to promote the INT sector. The patent box tax regime is one of the measures proposed. So this is in relation to the bill we're considering today, that is the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. The bill seeks to to reduce the current profits tax rate of 16.5% to 5% substantially for eligible IP income and accessible profits deriving from that. So we should proactively encourage the development of R&D activities. Now, for many businesses, IP is an important asset. In particular, R&D, outcome, creativity, and so on. This tax incentive will certainly encourage businesses to engage in R&D activities, and it will also help to encourage businesses to commercialize their R&D outcomes into products or services. That will certainly promote trading of R&D outcome as a commodity. Now, I believe the tax incentive will attract more businesses to set up an R&D base in Hong Kong. This will help to promote the development of the INT sector in Hong Kong. It will help to upgrade and transform our businesses. And then we could also attract more international investors to come and invest in Hong Kong. If we could make the patent box pie bigger, certainly that will promote the development of related professions. For example, the evaluation, management, and consultancy services for IP and so on. Then, so quality jobs, more quality jobs could be created. Now, the country wants Hong Kong to become a regional IP trading center. So all these developments would support that development. Now, Hong Kong has the advantage of being backed by the country and connected to the world. There is immense potential in our IP market. There are boundless opportunities. So I hope the government will prepare well for the implementation of the new law. And then they should also review and enhance other legislation that are related, and it should continue to encourage the R&D of products. The government should lead Hong Kong to start a new chapter on INT development. I speak in support of the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Benson Look, President, I speak in support of the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. I am a member of the Bills Committee, and I participated in the scrutiny of the bill. Under the 14th five-year plan of a country, it is said that a country supports Hong Kong developing into a regional IP trading center, and this term of the government is very proactive and capable. It is proposed under this bill that the preferential tax rate is set at 5%. Comparing to regular profit tax rate at 16.5%, this concessionary tax rate will encourage enterprises to undertake R&D activities and convert the outcome of R&D into products. I think that this is in line with the position given by us by our country. The government all along adopts different tax incentives to encourage and help various sectors to develop in a more speedy manner. Some years ago, the government lowered the enterprises that earn more than $2 million from 16.5% to 8.25% to boost the development of SMEs. We think that by implementing referential tax regimes, various sectors can be developed in a more speedy manner, and this kind of incentives is very popular among the sectors. I have 3 points of concern that I would like to raise. First, I think that the government should continue to make use of tax incentives to boost important sectors and industries in Hong Kong. Various countries and places use tax deductions and preferential tax regimes to boost development of their industries. According to the bills, the concessionary tax rate is 5% under the patent box regime. Comparing to other places and countries that offer similar tax incentives, our percentage is not low. For Luxembourg, the relevant tax rate is 4.99%, Ireland 10%, Korea 4.5% to 18%, Singapore 5% or 10%. In the Bills Committee meeting, I mentioned that our tax rate is not the lowest in the world. I wonder if this will affect our competitiveness and attractiveness. The administration said that apart from tax incentives, investors are more concerned about our I&T ecosystem, ancillary facilities, and talents that we have. The requirements and restrictions of these enterprises in Hong Kong are not as restrictive in Hong Kong compared to other places. This will help us attract more international investors and enterprises to establish presence in Hong Kong. I hope that Hong Kong will continue to adopt more aggressive concessionary tax rates so that we can draw for talents, startups, and enterprises. Second, during the scrutiny of the bill, I mentioned this. I am concerned if we have a shortage of patent examiners. I'm glad to see that since 2019, the government have been nurturing local patent examiners under the original grant patent system. And the IPD allows local patent examiners to undergo training on the mainland, and the government expects that the time taken for processing patent application will last 2 to 3 years. This is largely in line with the international standard. I hope that the government will step up training for local patent examiners and increase the quotas for a mainland exchange. Third, Hong Kong is one of the major disputes resolution centers in Asia. But I've talked to certain leaders in the IP industry. They told me that they came across some special experience when they took their IP cases to the court. They told me that the same case was heard by different courts. This is very worrisome. I wonder if we have enough talents to adjudicate IP cases in Hong Kong. I hope that the government will step up their efforts in training IP talents in Hong Kong and create a comprehensive value chain for our development of regional IP trading center. Thank you. I so submit. Dr. Johnny Ng. Thank you, President. The bill proposed to lower the tax on profits derived from qualifying IP to 5%, which is lower than the existing profit tax rate of 16.5%. I support it. I think that this patent box tax incentives will enhance our competitiveness in the region and encourage the sector to dedicate more resources into R&D activities and commercialize their R&D outcomes. This will also attract international enterprises to come to Hong Kong to engage in IP trading and maybe establish their headquarters in Hong Kong to help Hong Kong's industries to transform and upgrade. This will help develop Hong Kong's new quality productive forces and enhance our status as an INT center. I think that our tax revenue will increase eventually in the future. I have a few points to make. First, there are some neighboring countries that offer patent box regimes. For example, Korea, they offer a tax rate of 4.5% to 80%, Singapore 5 or 10%. The patent box regime of Korea is one of the most advanced one in the world. In terms of promoting local INT development, their regime was very helpful. I think that we should step up a promotion of the advantage of our patent box regime, along with our other friendly measures to encourage more enterprises to establish presence in Hong Kong to engage in R&D activities. Hong Kong, as an international financial center, we adopt this one country, two system principle. We have a number of challenges for financing. I think that the government should enhance collaboration with other countries under the Greater Bay Area to establish a IP trading platform to enhance collaboration with other cities under the Greater Bay Area. Third, I think that we should support IP development and trading. There aren't a lot of lawyers that offer valuation financing services on IP. This undermines the commercialization of R&D outcome. We don't have a lot of reputable companies that provide valuation services for IP. I think that financial institutions should offer more services for SMEs to apply for patent and also provide services on valuation of IP. Fourth, I think that we should step up talent training. We have to increase the number of patent examiners in Hong Kong and enhance our capacity and capabilities in substantive patent examination, so that we can promote and develop patent box regime and develop into a regional IP trading center. All in all, I support the passage of the bill to implement patent box regime to encourage R&D activities in the industry and commercialization of R&D outcomes so that we can become a regional IP trading center. So submit, President. I speak in support of the bill.
Mr. Rock Chen, thank you, President. The bill is aimed at offering a concessionary tax rate, and the rate is going to be slashed to 5%, way lower than the existing rate of 16.5%. That is to encourage the INT sector to carry out more R&D activities. Knowledge can change our destiny and can also create wealth. As President Xi Jinping stressed, that IP is very important to our country and the high-quality development of our country. So I speak in support of the bill. In recent years, China has the highest number of IP applications. China submitted over 1.58 million applications. However, the growth rate of China has decreased in 2 years in a row. It has decreased from 6.8% to 3.1%. the number of patent applications numbered 55,000 in total, which shows the input in relation to IP. This bill provides a potentially effective solution to support the INT development of the country. We do have the conditions to develop IP. According to statistics, we are one of the 12 most influential centers. There were over 17,000 applications. Most applications come from Switzerland, Japan, and so on. Hong Kong is the only region that exercises common law system in both Chinese and English, and we have the favorable conditions to do so. We also have a well-developed network, and we also have a wealth of experience in this connection. We have the advantage of enjoying the support of the motherland and close connection to the world. Right now, we are going to amend the rate to 5%, comparing with Singapore, that is 5 to 10%, Korea, 4.5% to 18%, Ireland, 10%, Israel, 5% to 10%. We can see that Hong Kong has our competitive edge. We can attract mainland and overseas enterprises to come to Hong Kong to make applications. They can even move their R&D businesses to Hong Kong. They can establish presence in Hong Kong. The international financial center status of Hong Kong also provides opportunities to us. The administration can study the implementation of the financing scheme for IP. So there are financing opportunities in Hong Kong. We also need to cement the status of the regional IP center. We need to keep our competitive edge. Apart from preferential tax treatment, the administration also needs to groom talents that have experience in commerce, law, trading, and so on. For talents from the mainland and from overseas, we need to provide facilitation when it comes to visa applications. We need to provide favorable conditions to attract them to come to Hong Kong. In order to expedite the development of IMP, we need to generate more support. The total R&D expenditure is on the low side. In 2022, our total expenditure only accounted for 1% of the GDP, comparing with 2% in Singapore and 4% in Taiwan. Obviously, we have room for improvement to catch up with these countries or areas. So we need to expedite the infrastructures in order to drive commercialization, to drive R&D, to quicken the speed. So this will be favorable for Hong Kong to lead other countries or areas. I speak in support of the bill. Thank you, President. Professor Priscilla Leung. Knowledge changes our destiny. We used to refer to our personal destiny, but with the high-speed development of technology, destiny also refers to the destiny of the country and our destiny. In the 14th Five-Year Plan, Hong Kong enjoys the status of regional IP trading center. It's not only the local IP, but we also need to attract mainland IP as well as overseas IP. The patent box concessionary tax rate is set at 5%. I support it. But when it comes to preferential tax treatment, I will say this is a token of sincerity. When we have preferential tax rate, we can attract talents as well as wealth. That is, I mean investors. We can attract investors to come to Hong Kong. I have quite a lot of friends. They are international investors. they are looking into establishing presence in Hong Kong. And I need to commend the Hong Kong SAR government. In the past 2 years, the administration went to areas around the world, for example, the Middle East, South America, or even Africa. These regions have interest in opening up more development opportunities. Quite many international investors are interested in coming to Hong Kong. In the legal industry, I already relayed my view to the current term government. They found that we lack lawyers specializing in IP. They needed to turn to international law firms that are renowned. Of course, we do have mega enterprises. And when there are international law firms in Hong Kong, they can establish presence in Hong Kong. The reason why I need to mention lawyers is that the protection of IP is the most important. And we need to build this confidence. So the 5% is a token of sincerity. So apart from attracting these patents to Hong Kong, we also need to make it an industry. On talents, we need to show even more sincerity. In the tertiary institution industry and in the technology industry, Dajiang Innovation account for 80% of the drones around the world. While he was studying the master's degree, he did so at Hong Kong UST, and he was developing drones. But drones weren't commercialized in Hong Kong in the end. Shenzhen successfully attracted the commercialization of drones. The investor was very young back then. Hong Kong has a lack of wealth, land, and talents. So when investors want to commercialize their products, after they have registered their products, they fail to, so to speak, grow their products. They lack the conditions to do so. The investor thanked the grooming of the UST. We need to have our own competitive edge in order to attract talents. If we can crawl for the IP and R&D, I understand many enterprises have a department for R&D development. Many mainland mega enterprises have IP that have the status of fellows. There's a high-level green technology innovation. It ranks the top around the world. But can it be commercialized in Hong Kong? They have been seriously looking for IP lawyer in Hong Kong. If they ask for $50 million or just $5 million, that would be sufficient. The venture capital actually turns to them. But can we commercialize the product in Hong Kong? When the IP comes to Hong Kong, the enterprises will naturally come to Hong Kong as well. When they have established presence in Hong Kong and they have IP, their companies have gone listed, then they will cast their eye on Belt and Road countries market. The 5% is attractive. Say you need to use discount to attract buyers, and then they will buy even more. I have drawn reference from the 8 UGC universities Race Plus. That is a scheme. "24 IPs in total are under Race Plus, which is supported by Professor Sun. Each project can obtain a funding of $100 million. So we need to keep these IP in Hong Kong. More importantly, they need to develop in Hong Kong. There can be jobs. There can also be a chain of the industry, and we need to commercialize the products. University teams are more and more proactive. In Hong Kong, these fundings are approved much faster. University professors are confident about the laws of Hong Kong. So we have 24. If we can keep all of them in Hong Kong, it's important that we have businesses as long as overseas countries know the potential of Hong Kong. Then capital will be like water flowing to Hong Kong. Overseas countries' capital will also flow to Hong Kong as a result. So I speak in support of the bill. I so submit. Thank you, President.
Ms. Eunice Yung. I speak in support of the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. The bill will amend the Inland Revenue Ordinance. So for accessible profits derived from eligible IP income, there will be a concessionary tax rate of 5%. This is an important initiative because it will encourage innovation and application of IP. Now, in the 14th five-year plan, the central authorities stated clearly that Hong Kong should develop into a regional IP trading center. To achieve that target, we need to encourage in the industrial sector and R&D sector to develop IP and use IP. Providing a concession tax rate is an effective tool. And then we learn also from international experience. There are more and more countries and regions offering the patent box tax incentive regime. So we want to, because they want to encourage R&D activities and also the commercialization and transformation of R&D outcome. So I think we're acting in a timely manner to introduce the patent tax incentive. It will substantially boost our competitiveness in the region. Now, for IP-intensive industries, they accounted for 32% of our GDP some years ago, and then they hired 29% of the workforce. We can see, therefore, IP-intensive industries are important to our development. Now we're providing the patent tax incentive, patent box tax incentive that will further stimulate R&D activities, and it will be long-term. It will be a long-term driving engine, and we're going to encourage innovation and R&D, and then with the patent box tax incentive, we could encourage businesses to invest more in R&D activities, and then we could have more homegrown innovation capacity. We can see that the tax incentive will not just benefit the R&D sector, but also the legal and other professional services. This will further consolidate Hong Kong's position as the regional IP trading center. Now, as we have the patent box tax incentive, we need to make sure that the system is not abused. This is to ensure the fairness of the tax regime. The administration said that it will go by the standards of our OECD to formulate stringent rules and regulations. There will be specific definition of IP income and IP assets, and then there's also record-keeping requirement. I believe these measures are to plug loopholes and make sure that the policy has the effect as intended. Now, with these patent box tax incentive and other measures, I believe SMEs and the ICT sector will then invest more in R&D activities and also commercialize more R&D outcome. This helps to promote the creative industries in Hong Kong. The government needs to publicize the incentive more proactively overseas, so more businesses will be brought to Hong Kong, and then we could seize upon the opportunities brought about by the Belt and Road initiative as well. It's important that we retain talents, and we could also bring talents from GBA to Hong Kong. This is important too. Thank you. Dr. So Chang-Wing. Thank you, Deputy President. Now, on IP and in particular registered patent, they are all important everywhere in the world. In 2022, the number of patent applications of our country accounted for the largest share of the global total. There are over 1.6 million applications. That takes up about half of all the applications around the world. It's actually 36.8%, and there's an upward trend. Now in Hong Kong, we're also doing well. The statistics of intellectual property department shows that in 2020, from 2021 to 23, for 3 years in a row, each year, over 10,000 standard patents are granted. That shows that there is much momentum in this respect. And between 2019 and 21, IP-intensive industries contributed to almost 1/3 of the GDP. They also hired about 30%. They also provided about 30% of jobs in Hong Kong. So we can see, therefore, IP-intensive industries are an important driving engine for economic development. So for upstream industries, if we provide concessionary tax arrangement, that is actually a good way to encourage businesses to engage in R&D activities more, so that we could then have more IP assets. Now, the commercialization and transformation of R&D outcome will promote the development of the emerging industries, and that will be a new growth point for Hong Kong. In the long run, it will enhance our competitiveness. Therefore, I support the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. The bill and the amendment to be moved are a result of the government making reference to user experience around the world. The government has also taken on board the views of the industry to come up with the patent box tax regime. The regime offers a concessionary tax rate of 5% instead of the original 16.5% of profits tax rate. So this will help to sustain the development of the economy, and it's also an effective way to maximize the benefits of IP income. Now, around the world, there's some much development on the IP front. World Bank statistics show that in 2021, the IT export amounted to $277 billion US, and then in 2022 it went up to $446 billion US. But then for our country, there is still a deficit in terms of patent import and export. Now, the patent import amounted to 44.7 billion US dollars, but export was only 13.3 billion dollars. And then in terms of manpower, IP trading and professional support and so on, they're still not sufficient in Hong Kong. We need to build a market, so 1 + 1 will be more than 2. Now we see that there is a drastic rise in the use of IP, and there's an immense trading market. There is much more room for Hong Kong to develop further, and then Hong Kong would become the bridge between the country and the world in terms of IP trading. Now, encouraging R&D activities and commercialization and transformation of R&D income, the bill provides a strong incentive. At the same time, we need to consolidate and improve upon our IP protection system. On IP management and trading, we need to create even more favorable conditions. And then Hong Kong will truly become a regional IP trading center. And then we could promote IP-related services in Hong Kong towards some high-value development. And then we could also then enhance boost new quality productive forces. Now, my suggestions are, firstly, there should be better coordination of collaboration among tertiary institutions on IP operation, management, valuation, arbitration, and mediation. That we need to train cross-disciplinary talent. So the talents have multiple skills. We also need to increase the number of examiners. There must be more professional training. And then there must be closer integration of the value chains. The second suggestion is that we should use AI and other big data technology so we could better analyze the supply and demand in the IP market. And then we could keep enhancing the IT protection regime and the trading system. We also need to step up collaboration with the mainland and overseas. And we should form an alliance on IP professional services. And then we could provide quality professional services in relation to IP that will help to create an ecosystem of IP trading in Hong Kong. Finally, my last suggestion is that we should improve the relevant policies and systems. We should set up an IP arbitration and mediation center. We should also improve the copyright ordinance further. And then we must have regard to the latest development in the IP market and emerging industries. And then there should be comprehensive protection for IP. So I speak.
Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Deputy President, I speak in support of the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. Deputy President, various economies over the world are transforming into knowledge-based economies. According to the OECD definition, knowledge-based economy means the use of knowledge to develop economy. That means making use of knowledge to create value and make use of innovation and creations as the driving force for economy. Under the 14th Five-Year Plan, the country supports Hong Kong developing into an IET hub, East meets West cultural hub, and regional IP trading center. This shows that Hong Kong has a unique advantage under the one country, two systems principle. We have to work with the country to seize the new opportunities of transforming into a knowledge-based economies. IP is an important asset for a lot of enterprises. Outcome of R&D can be registered under patent to be protected under the law so that these patents can be traded to develop new products and services. According to a lot of experience of various advanced economies, through creative industry, the creation of patent and IP can facilitate the trading of relevant intellectual property. Development, licensing, and trading of IP can encourage creations and innovations. This will facilitate commercialization of R&D outcomes, and this will also help develop professional services that relates to IMP, including legal, management, consultancy, and agency services. A lot of advanced economies establish patent box regime to lower the tax rates on profits derived from qualifying IP in order to encourage industrial and R&D sector as well as IP users to engage in IP trading activities. The Financial Secretary mentioned in the 2023-24 budget that a patent box tax incentives will be implemented for qualifying IP generated from eligible R&D activities. Concessionary tax rates will apply. This bill is to amend the Inland Revenue Ordinance Cap 112 to offer concessionary tax for accessible profits under the patent box regime. Under the Nexus approach, only qualifying in IP income will be eligible for concessionary tax rate under the patent box regime. IP assets include patent, plant variety rights, and copyrighted software. Our regular profit tax rate is 16.5%. Under other preferential tax regimes, our concessionary tax rate is 8.25%. To make sure that our patent box regime is competitive, the administration proposes that the concessionary tax rates under the patent box regime should be 5%. Deputy President, I pointed out to the administration on multiple occasions that if the government wants to create more sources of revenue, they have to be innovative. They can reduce, for example, tax rates under the patent box regime to lower the tax rate on profits derived from qualifying IP. On the surface of it, the tax revenue of the government may be affected, but this will lower the burden of tax expenditure of enterprises so that they can spend more money on R&D, and that will facilitate IT development and economic development. This will also facilitate international investment to enhance our competitiveness. Deputy President, our country is developing new quality productive forces, and this has been written in the 2024 Government Work Report. We stress that we have to nurture future industries. Under the 14th five-year plan, it is said that we have to innovate, create new energy, develop new energy vehicles, green environment, aviation, marine equipment, and new industries alike. Hong Kong should complement with our country's development and leverage on our unique advantage to develop into an international INT hub. And also we should leverage on the Northern Metropolis to plan on a broad perspective. We have to nurture talents, attract enterprises, enhance collaboration among government, enterprises, and academics to facilitate the development of INT cluster in the Northern Metropolis. Also, we have to develop new industrialization, expedite transformation of R&D outcome, and to promote the industrialization of INT sector. The proposed patent box regime will help attract more INT enterprises to establish their presence in Hong Kong, to conduct R&D activities, and this will also facilitate our IP trading activities, as well as driving the development of ancillary professional services. All these will facilitate our development of new quality productive forces. Before the implementation of patent box regime, some taxpayers may not have kept records on their IP. The government proposes to establish a 3-year transitional period so that the administration can make use of a 3-year rolling figure to calculate their nexus ratio in order to be eligible for the concessionary tax rate. The Secretary will move an amendment to specify that the 3-year period will begin on the first day of taxpayers' basis period for the year of assessment 2023-24. It shows that the administration takes on advice and is very pragmatic. Apart from providing tax incentives, the administration should provide more incentives to the sector as well as support so that the industry practitioners can engage in R&D activities. Compared to other advanced economies, our R&D activities are not very vibrant. Our total R&D expenditure to GDP in 2005 to 2015 is at around 0.72 and 0.79%. INT is the focus of this term of the government. The administration has dedicated much resources to develop infrastructure for INT, facilitate R&D, and nurture talents. Our R&D expenditure to local GDP rose to 1.07% in 2022, which is very encouraging. As BPA and myself has proposed to the government, we should enhance the R&D expenditure ratio to GDP and raise it to no less than 2.5%. And also, we should enhance the mechanism to approve INT projects. Deputy President, I so speak in support of the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. Does any other members wish to speak? If not, I now call upon the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development to reply, then the debate will come to a close. Secretary. President, we submitted the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024 to the Legislative Council in April 2024 for scrutiny. I am grateful for the support and hard work of Mr. Edmund Wong, Chairman of the Bills Committee, along with other members of the BC. Thanks to them, the scrutiny of the bill was completed very smoothly. I would also like to thank the members who spoke just now for their invaluable comments on the bill. The bill seeks to amend the Inland Revenue Ordinance to implement the patent box tax incentives, thereby putting into effect a major policy measure under the 2023 Policy Address and the 2023-24 budget to promote the development of intellectual property IP trading. The bill proposes to offer tax concessions for qualifying profits derived from eligible IP created through R&D activities to encourage enterprises to forge ahead with more R&D activities and create more intellectual properties with market potential as a catalyst for promoting INT and IP trading activities. Given Hong Kong's status as a member of the Inclusive Framework on Base Erosion and Profit Shifting, BEPS, under the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, to implement the patent box tax incentive, Hong Kong is obliged to apply the nexus approach in determining the extent of IP income that is entitled to preferential tax treatment. Moreover, to promote more filings under the local patent system and plant varieties protection system, the relevant enterprises must register their new inventions and new plant varieties in Hong Kong in order to enjoy patent box tax incentives. During scrutiny of the bill, most BC members and groups that wrote to the BC supported the patent box tax incentives. We responded to the concerns and comments received in writing and verbally during Bills Committee meetings. There were members who asked for the definition of qualifying intellectual property income, scope of eligible research and development expenditure, the calculation of nexus ratio, and so on. As mentioned in my speech moving the second reading of the bill, we have to comply with the OECD requirements on patent box tax incentives that we offer, including what counts as qualifying IP income, the definition and calculation of eligible R&D expenditure, and so on. We have taken a liberal approach to cover a wide scope of income derived from eligible IP with a view to enhancing our international competitiveness in attracting foreign institutional investment while complying with the nexus conditions and rules. When calculating the nexus ratio, we adopt the jurisdictional approach for determining the scope of eligible R&D expenditures. Some members were concerned that the concessionary tax rate of 5% under the patent box regime may not be the most competitive when compared with other tax jurisdictions. We explained to members that while the tax rate under the patent box regime implemented in certain tax jurisdictions can be as low as 5%, taxpayers are required to fulfill other conditions, such as those relating to investment and staff recruitment, in order to be eligible for the relevant patent box tax incentives. We, however, do not impose these requirements. We offer a flat concessionary tax rate of 5%, so we think that our patent box tax incentives are competitive. There were members who asked about the professional manpower supply and training upon passage of the bill. The original grant patent system was launched in 2019. The Intellectual Property Department currently has nearly 30 patent examiners and will sustain their effort in staff recruitment and training, enhancing the quality and efficiency of patent examination, institutional establishment and enhancement, etc., with a view to acquiring institutional autonomy and conducting substantive patent examination in 2030. IPD will also maintain close liaison with the China National Intellectual Property Administration on technical support and manpower training, including arranging patent examiners to undergo training in the mainland. The Chief Executive announced in 2023 policy address that the administration will conduct discussions with stakeholders in order to map out the regulatory arrangements for local patent agent services covering professional qualification requirements and registration, as well as the regulatory model and framework with the aim of enhancing service quality and nurturing patent talent. IPD has started talking to the sector while enhancing their IP manager scheme and manpower training effort. The department will also collaborate with the Department of Justice and other stakeholders to promote the development of IP mediation and arbitration services. In addition, some members questioned whether the proposed patent box tax incentives can attract foreign corporate investment in scientific research here. The current term government has been actively promoting the upstream, midstream, and downstream development of our INT industry with a view to creating a comprehensive INT ecosystem. The Innovation Technology Industry Commission announced the blueprint for innovation and technology development in Hong Kong at the end of 2023, and the 2023 policy address also put forward a series of forward-looking measures, including the patent box tax incentives. The government will continue to actively promote INT development by developing relevant infrastructure, promoting R&D, as well as nurturing and attracting talents. Some members urged the government to promote our patent box tax incentives in order to attract more INT enterprises to establish their presence and conduct R&D activities here. Upon passage of the bill, we will continue to promote the patent box tax incentives to mainland and overseas businesses through our network of economic and trade offices and mainland offices, as well as offices of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council and Invest Hong Kong. Legal advisor to the Bills Committee asked the administration for the basis for proposing to empower the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury to amend the proposed concessionary tax rate by way of subsidiary legislation under the patent box tax regime. We explained to the Bills Committee that the design of the IP preferential tax regime needs to strictly follow the international rules and regulations. Otherwise, the regime may be assessed as potentially harmful by OECD. Given the dynamics of relevant international tax standards, it is necessary to allow flexibility in the legislation such that the parameters of the regime can be adjusted swiftly in response to any market regulatory development. There are similar provisions under the existing Inland Revenue Ordinance, Cap 112. Regarding the record-keeping requirements, some organizations asked the administration to clarify the commencement and end date specific to the proposed 3-year transitional period. The administration, in response to this, will move an amendment to specify that the 3-year transitional period will run from the beginning of the taxpayer's basis period of the year of assessment 2023-24. I will move the relevant amendment during the committee stage amendment. Bills Committee members have no objections to the proposed amendment. The bill, if passed, will come into operation on the day on which it is published in the Gazette as an ordinance. I implore members to support the bill and the amendment that we will move during the CSA so that relevant organizations and enterprises can apply for the patent box tax incentives for the year of assessment 2023 to 2024, thereby consolidating the competitiveness of Hong Kong as a regional IP trading center. I so submit. Thank you. I now put the question to you that the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024 be read the second time. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024. The Council now becomes Committee of the Whole Council to consider the Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024.